Dah.
Recorded already? Okay, it's recorded already. Okay, then we can start. So good afternoon, everybody, brothers and sisters. Welcome to BFY Youth Service on the first week of July. So before we start for the service, there are some, actually not house rules, but it's better for all of us to turn on our camera and use your real names in order for us to identify you. And then
yeah, I cannot use how LOL 3600.
the phone number, the phone type like Oppo, blah blah blah. Okay, so just a little bit background of our speaker of the day. So I will introduce Brother Heng Hao. So Brother Heng Hao was formerly a vice head of BFY and started the Pushing Boundaries Camp for Buddhist Youths in 2011. He is currently an advocate for Buddhism in Victoria, BSV, as well as helping the youths in establishing a BSV youth group. He also keeps up his daily practice of meditation. He started IDIPS after realizing the difficulties of international students in Australia. Motivated by his Buddhist practice, he developed the social enterprise to create transparency and convenience for international students in Australia. Other than this startup, he is passionate about finance and also studied IT to expand his knowledge. During his free time, he practices the guitar and Muay Thai. Okay, so I will leave the time now to Brother Heng Hao. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Share screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, my turn. Can everyone see the screen?
Can.
Hey, not everyone's video is on. Ayo, what double standard is this? You can see me, I can't see you. Okay, never mind. Without further ado, I'll start. Hey, Ryan, I see you now, and all of us can see you too.
Hello, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. Okay. So, how many of you have heard of kintsugi? I've heard of kintsugi. So, you can nod your head if you like. So this is kintsugi. It's basically called golden joinery. And one thing very interesting that I want to start with this talk is because life is basically, sorry, I think, is there a sound that you guys are hearing?
Yep.
Well, I think it'll go away after a while. It'll go away after a while. And yeah, okay, it has. So kintsugi is basically a Japanese art. So let's say you have a ceramic cup, it breaks on the ground. They put it together and they join it with gold. And what actually happens is that even though something was broken before, when you fix it with gold, it looks a lot more beautiful. It has more depth. It has a story behind it. And that's basically what relationships are with people, whether is it with your parents, whether is it with your friends or relationships with another person. It's all beautiful in a sense, but it's about how we can pick up the pieces and put things together. Then that itself is the beauty. So first things first, this presentation is not a gossip or ranting session. It's not a hatred building session. This is not the goal for this. So if any one of you have this intention, you can tune out now. I'm fine actually talking to just Manfred and myself, and Ryan Wee and whoever else. And yeah, just before I start, okay, bye. Just before I start, there's always the content and the container. Now, it's very important to learn the difference of both. And I think Ajahn Brahm has actually mentioned about it before. So there was a lot of feedback that I was getting before the talk. And some of them haven't even seen what the content was. But there was a lot of feedback on it. That's fine. Constructive feedback is always welcome. But what I hope for today is for you guys to focus on the content of the talk and not the container. Because I know that this is a controversial topic. And I've actually gotten quite a few views of different people to actually give me their input. And I'll explain to you why this is important later. This is also not something for me to show off that I've got 7 ex-girlfriends. In fact, it's actually not a good thing because it shows that I take very long to actually learn from stuff. Yeah, so and I'm one of the 4 horses that I'll talk about later, and probably I'm the dumbest one, which is where I started from. So why this topic? So relationship is very common in life, and whether it's with your parents, your friends, a loved one, it's not always sweet like in the movies. Like movie always, oh, so romantic, oh, so great, you know, the families, oh, ha 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 ha. But in our true life, we know relationships aren't like that. So this is a very good quote by Ajahn Chah. If anything which is troubling you, anything that's irritating you, that is your teacher. So relationships are actually your teacher also. You just have to see it in that light. Next, it's about to learn about yourself. Another quote by Ajahn Chah, you are your own teacher. Looking for teachers can't solve your own doubts. And knowing yourself is the most important. Now, basically, the way I see this is having a good relationship, having a good friend is basically your mirror. And being a mirror, it shows you who you truly are. Sometimes, now we wear specs today. No, I'm wearing specs today. It's not on purpose. We see things with different lens. And because we see things with different lens, sometimes we always think that our lens is correct. Our lens is right. And that's where good relationships come in and say, well, not exactly, but this is actually what I think. And then you can combine those views, and then you can kind of try and figure out who you are, and you can understand yourself better too. So jump straight in. My first one, young love. So this is where we met on Friendster. So Friendster is something like Facebook. So what I'll do is, you notice, is going to follow this structure. Obviously, there's no pictures, there's no identifying information, hopefully, but it needs to give a little bit of a depth so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. So there's facts and what I learned. So this happened when I was secondary 3, she was secondary 2. So I couldn't leave the house to meet her because obviously, yeah, parents are wise enough for me not to do something like that. But I still, when there's a will, there's a way, and sometimes you find a way. So what happened was she wanted me to do something which would actually get me in jail. I won't say what, but if any of you guys are in a similar position, yeah, just make sure if you know it's wrong, don't do it. So obviously I didn't want to give it to her, and then she got it elsewhere. And that was a period of time where I had no idea what love was. So I understood the consequences, but I was not willing to compromise on my values. And I think that's very important. No matter what your age is, right or wrong, you know it in your heart. And love is built on trust. So you can love someone, it's very easy to fall in love. But to build trust with someone, trust is not expected. It needs to be built up. So one of the lessons from this is not to dive head in, which took me a few relationships to learn also. And I realized also being in secondary school, everyone's having relationships. There's this guy boasting about his girlfriend, how pretty he is, from this school, from that. And I realized I was actually feeling the peer pressure to have a relationship to fit in. So this was something which I realized shouldn't be the case. And if you guys are feeling that way, maybe have a think about your relationship. Are you doing it just for the sake of having a relationship, or are you building something more sustainable? So right or wrong, we know it in our heart. This was a confused growth stage. So this is relationship 2. So we met before going to Polytechnic. So it went rather well. Went rather well in year 1, and it went so well that I spent so much time with her, I forgot about my GPA. So my GPA was really crap, and I suffered the karma aspects of it later because I was trying so hard to bring up my GPA. But what happens is friends also started to change her, and she started to do a bit more smoking, started to want to go clubbing and all these sort of things which I was not in tune with. So after a while, we realized after dating, we're not the same people or have the same ideals. So we decided to break it off. And basically, our friends shape us more than we know and would like to believe. And this is very important. So I think some of you guys know about Kalyana Mitras, and they say it's about 100% of the spiritual life. And this is why it's so important, because they actually shape us as to who we are, you know, and we don't even know it, and that's a dangerous thing. Yep. Nice one, Ryan. I love your background. So yeah, so another thing, our parents are also very wise in telling us, don't get into relationship too young, you know. And that's because relationships can be distracting. It did affect my GPA. I suffered the consequences of it. And yeah, you know, there was a reason why they're giving us that advice. But another thing that is, the rate of change is very quick when you're young. When you're young, you're still trying to find out who you are. You're still trying to find out where you want to be, you know. And hoping that a person won't change much is basically a fallacy. So change is the only constant, but how you change is up to you. So this is what I want you guys to take away from this. So the rebound, yeah, I met her in 2008, Watson's Fit Figure competition. We were winners in our category, and both of us had controlling parents to the extent where the mom would follow us on dates. She was a model for M1, and we did a long distance relationship with Beijing and Singapore. So it was a pretty good relationship, but I realized that, yeah, I was just in love with her because she was pretty. So there was hardly any common interest. Like, she was all into dance and all that, and I was more into like karate and studies and all that. So, and we didn't have much common interest. And I realized now, in retrospect, I was chasing after the sweet chili. So there's a sweet chili story about Ajahn Brahm, where this boy keeps eating chilies and all that. And then he's like sweating profusely, he's half crying. And then they're like, why are you doing? Why are you suffering so much? He's like, oh, I'm trying to find the sweet chili. Now I know nowadays there's sweet chili sauce, but let's put that aside. Naturally, chilies are not sweet. So naturally, chilies are spicy. So it's like some of us, we're trying to search for something that isn't there. So that's the parable of the sweet chili. Parents play a more important role in a relationship than we think. So you also have to be a right person for their daughter or their son. I realized I was chasing lust, which is very different from chasing love, of romantic love in this case. So that's something to learn. Next was the law of love. She was an intelligent lady. She was studying law. And the relationship itself started to instill a bit more structure in our academic lives. Like, I started to learn, most of our dates were in law school. So it was quite interesting. Yeah, so you had to, so I realized I had to up my game. She was a year older than myself. So I really wanted to impress her, really wanted to impress her friends. The only downside is like we started to drift off and we broke up at BMT. But what I realized also, I was too playful for my own good. So I needed to be a bit more focused in life. And yeah, career is important, as you guys know, in your lay life. It's not just focusing on enjoyment, just about dating, ha ha ha. So I decided to stop dating for a while and focus on character building and academics in the army. So I started to do a lot more reading when I was in the army because there was a lot more time. And I started to do short courses to improve also. So sloth and torpor, one of the 5 hindrances, it was very strong in me. So it's something that maybe some of you are feeling also. And yeah, might find ways out of the 5 hindrances. The Buddha definitely did share about that. So you can search it up too. Next one, life is a play. We're all actors. This person did acting. We did long distance for 2 years, 7 months. But even when I was back, we were unable to meet up one-to-one. I was treated like a special friend. And there was a lot of parental aspects of it that also added on to it. One of my main issues was her having to be intimate on stage. So that was a difficult part for me. And what I learned also, love was not control. And because that led to jealousy, which also led to a lack of trust. And that also flowed on to lack of trust on me also. So then that leads to suffering for both. So one of the things I learned, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Because if you can't take, if your partner's career is to be part of which is to be intimate on stage, and you can't take it, it's not gonna work out. So you have to realize that. It was a very deep love, and therefore deep love is also a very painful double-edged sword, and it really affected me a lot. And I stopped dating for 1 whole year because I just couldn't date anyone else after that. So for this part, to realize some truths, we need to stop drinking salt water. Now, this salt water parable is very similar to the sweet chili, where basically salt water, we drink it. So you're jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship. You drink the salt water, you quench for a while, but then after that, you need to start drinking again, and you drink more salt water, and the process keeps repeating. So that's when I decided to, okay, let's take a bit of a stopper. Let me work on myself. Let's see how I can improve myself. Neglecting the flower. So this is relationship number 6. So we're almost there. So we're getting through it pretty quickly. So we met in uni, and because I was still recovering from my previous relationship, she actually waited for me. She almost waited 1 year for me to really get over and make sure that everything was okay. And it went rather well. And I actually took the relationship for granted. So I started to work 7 days a week. And yeah, I was just stressed all the time. I wasn't really taking care of the relationship, and that's when she decided to end it with me. So what I learned is career is important, but a relationship needs to be looked after too. Balance in work and life is important, and and the Buddha also mentioned about a middle path. So we know it as a concept, but when there are different factors acting on us, that's when we really have to take a step back and think, okay, what is the middle path for this? How do I spend time with my partner? So it's not just about planting the seeds. Like we always talk about planting the seeds in the Dharma. But when something starts to flourish and grow, you also need to nurture it also. So human beings are still human beings. You still need to take effort to nurture them. So this one is nursing my wounds. So what I realized after a while, I just didn't have time to date. So how usually dating usually happens, according to my concept of it, is like, friends introduce you and say, oh, you should meet this girl is really nice and all that, but then you don't really have the time to do so. So I started to go to dating apps to try and meet people. So she was a nurse. She was from China, and there was this thing when we first started off. There was a hesitation to commit fully, and I didn't quite understand that, because I was thinking, yeah, sure, it can be overlooked. Everyone is basically the same, and I was just looking to settle down. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I could just settle for it, which I realized was a mistake later. So she loved to party, which I just tolerated. So I'll send her to parties. Then after that, pick her up when she's drunk, and then bring her home. And after that, she went to Brisbane to study to be a doctor. And both of us agreed that that long distance was not suitable for us. Like we would definitely not make it work. And that's when I realized core beliefs are important. So what you can be different in certain likes and dislikes, because everyone's a different human being, but your core beliefs must be important. And for me, I feel like helping other people wasn't a very strong core belief in her. There were a lot of double standards that started to stack up, and it was something which I couldn't comprehend, and that was probably why I was hesitant to commit fully. And then after that, I realized that, so I did try to break it off once, and because I was like, no, this is not it. But then after that, she convinced me to continue, and after that, my mindset was more of tolerating it. So toleration is not love, but acceptance is. So once again, if you can't accept it, don't force it. You try your best for the relationship, give it your 100%, but if it doesn't work out, don't force it. So sometimes you have to trust your gut feel. So yeah, there's 7 relationships. That was pretty quick. So I'm shifting you guys down here. So I found this really interesting website. It's called If the Buddha Gave Dating Tips. So do know that this is really, really watered down. This is probably not what the Buddha said, but a lot of it has been watered down, but it makes quite good sense. So the first one is equality is not based on statistics. It's based on shared values, shared communication, and shared self-respect. So this is something which is, what you will notice, there's a lot of sharing about it. And that is important for every basis and bedrock of a relationship. Thoughts become things. Choose to reinvent your story for better results. Now this links up with the 4 horses that I'm going to talk about. So when I've got a friend last time, I remember her, she what happened was she dated 4 guys, not at the same time, but like one by one by one by one, and all 4 cheated on her. And then she was like, I don't know why they always cheat on me. I said, okay, what's your type? Oh, I like the type that's a very bad boy, likes to party, likes to this and that. So I was like, well, you kind of see so you're repeating your same story and hoping for better results, but that's not going to happen, you know. And if you're fine with them cheating on you, then maybe, yeah, you just continue being that way. But if not, you have to find a way to change it. And so that's where we have the power to change and reinvent our story by changing ourselves. I think that's the most important part. The last one, in equal relationships, both parties are challenged to grow and evolve together, and not just one person pushing for another partner's growth. Now that's something you guys may have seen in your friends' relationships. You may seen in your own relationship. So you see one party that's always planning stuff, always doing stuff for the other party, and the other party is yeah, okay, yep, take it for granted. So it's more of 2 people getting together and really saying, okay, how can we motivate each other? How are we like a power pack couple, you know? Where if you're having a bad day, I'm here, I'm a listening ear for you, and I'm here to support you and get you through the difficult times. Because love isn't just like the movies, as I said. So these dating tips, really good. The 4 horses, what I've been talking about all this while. Now, what you will notice, I was probably the dumbest horse on the right-hand side, this one here. So the Buddha mentions there's 4 different types of horses. The first one gallops at the side of the whip. The second one gallops where the whip touches its hair. Next one is when it touches the skin. And the last one is when it touches his bones. So I started to make a lot of relationships errors when I was still this horse. And that's why it probably took me a lot of time to learn. Then I started to actively move upwards. Which horse I am now, I can't tell you, because obviously it'll be very skewed. If I ask most of you, you'll probably say, oh, I'm this one. But don't forget that this is not just in terms of relationships. This is also in terms of life. Like how are we in life? And life gives us cues like, hey, you know, you should be thinking about taking care of your health. Let's say this guy get a little bit of like heart pain because he every day eats McDonald's. So life is already giving him a cue like, hey, you know, something's gonna go wrong. Then after that, he gets his first angina attack. And then after that, he gets his heart attack. And he continues to eat again because he's like, it's okay, I'll be fine. Then he eats himself to death. And then he becomes the last horse. So what I see is actually we are all 4 horses. And unless we take an active step towards being the horse that we want to be, we are going to basically become this horse. So not just in relationships, all aspects of your life, which horse are you? So some of you know, some of you may not know. So when you know what's love. And basically, she and I met on the apps because we were just both too busy. She's a doctor by profession, a pediatrician. So I'm very proud of her. She is basically she's basically working today. She's going to be working a 6-day work week. And she's actually on the call now. She's listening to my talk. So I'll be very careful about this part. So we met on the apps because we're too busy. And fortunately for me, I think Guang kind of knows her. He doesn't know her very, very well, but yeah, our paths cross. Could be karmic relations, who knows? And we realize we have a very deep understanding and deep support for each other. We have mutual respect, and well, once again, keyword is sharing. We're always sharing each other what our goals, principles, our mindsets are. And yeah, that's why it's so important for us to also nurture each other. So nurturing is a very important part. We use the word a lot, but you need to also make sure that you're both there for each other. We're learning from each other. Let's say basically, she's actually taking extra steps to learn about startups, to understand what it's like in my world. And I'm taking some steps to learn more about biology, about human physiology, about different things which she does at work, so that if she tells me she has a bad day, I can understand what's a bad day for her. I can understand the terminology. So this is part of the nurturing process where you actually take the effort to learn more about your partner's life. And she's not Buddhist, but she lets me do my own practice. She supports me in the process. And I'm very grateful to have her. So what I learned, and I'm still learning, you build yourself to attract the partner that you want. So you can't just say, oh, I want this a really awesome wife or really awesome husband, expect this, but you are a slob and you are a person who's always negative, always trying to pick faults with people. You will never attract that partner. So if you want to be that partner, you have to build yourself up towards it. Communication is a two-way street, but this is another cliche that we use very often, but the space and the trust needs to be there for you to communicate well. You need to have that environment that you need to build, and it takes both parties. So if your partner is sharing something very serious and difficult to share with you, you have to give him or her the space to actually share it. And finding a partner that reciprocates is key also. So sometimes I do things for her, she does things for me also. We make sure we say thank you to each other, because it's so we don't take each other for granted. No matter how small the issue is or whatever we do for each other, we say thank you. So I disagree with the Chinese mindset. Oh, we are very close with each other, there's no need to say thank you and all that. And after a while, it becomes like it snowballs into a bigger effect. But saying thank you and appreciating the partner, I think is very important. And that's where we bring together to the last part, nurturing is important. So as you can see here, I didn't used to cook. So over here we have Hokkien mee. And it's the best Hokkien mee in our house, which is just the two of us. And so this is something that she's been teaching me also. And I've been learning also. And because I didn't used to cook when I was in Melbourne, and what happens is I just didn't have the time to do so. But then now with the opportunity, working from home, I don't need to travel. I can learn new stuff. I can also do activities with her. And this is what I love about our relationship. It's something which you can basically nurture and encourage each other to be better people. So change is constant. I just forgot this point, sorry. Change is constant, but you can always change to be better together. And I think that should be the goal of all relationships, whether it's romantic, whether it's parental relationship, whether it's friendship. You all will change, but you can always change to be better. So yeah, I really love this picture. One more thing, just before I end off, Kalyana Mitras. So I'm still going to touch on Kalyana Mitras. For those of you that don't know, it's spiritual friendship. And to do such a difficult topic today, as I was saying at the start, this is such a difficult topic because it's not something which I'm giving a speech about, where I am differentiated from another person. I can talk about concepts, I can talk about theory, but this is more like, this is something that happened to me personally. So how do I remain objective in all this? And that's where we have different people giving me feedback, different advice. And Kalyana Mitras, if they disagree with something, you should listen to them, because they actually do have a good point. So this morning, I did a morning consult with another doctor that you guys know, Dr. Kwang, just to make sure that I have the right mindset approaching this topic today. So I love this picture. It shows that although we may be looking in the same direction, we're looking with tinted glasses. So we're looking with different colors. And because the guy with the blue glasses may be the one saying that, oh, this is how it is and this is how life is, you know. And the one in red may be telling him something different. Like, hey, you might need to, that may not be the case. Have you considered this? So one of the key talking points today we mentioned was, what message are we teaching the Buddhist youth? Today's talk is about the youth. It's not about adjusting it so that it pleases one person or different parties, you know. Are people taking something away from this? Are they learning from it? And the next question is, do past relationships need to be enemies? And that's a big no. You don't need to be like enemies with that person. But here's the catcher. Must they be friends? That's not a must. So you can always take the effort to be friends with them, to try and reach out an olive leaf with them, but not necessarily they will accept it. Not necessarily they will want your help. And so in terms of like friends, one of my exes, I still send leads to her I still do send customers to her. So she's working in property. I do send people to her so that she can basically get them as customers. So it's a business relationship. But whenever I do that, I usually tell my girlfriend that, hey, I'm in contact with her because of this reason. So I don't make it, so I make sure that once again, communication, sharing, letting her know. The last one is a bit difficult. Are you at peace with your past? So what is the litmus test? I'm gonna have a bit of water. Yeah, sorry, I was just turning off my heater. Getting a bit too hot. Yeah, so are you at peace with your past? How do you know you've moved on from an ex-girlfriend or ex-partner or ex-relationship? So one way that I found, so recently, not very recent, but about 1 or 2 years ago, what happened was one of my exes came out to me and actually told me that her direct words were, I was involved with someone else when I was together with you. So this was, now I want you guys to go through the process with me. And when she actually sent me that message, I was affected by it. It came to me as a shock. So that was the first thing that I felt. So that was shock. And then I read through the message again and again. And then I was like, maybe there's another way to interpret this. Then I realized like my emotions was moving more to disappointment. Like, oh, how could you do this? This is so disappointing. It's in the past, yeah, sure. But like, how could you do this? Then after that, I read through the message a few times. And then I realized that, hey, wait a minute. This person is feeling a lot of guilt. And she's been holding on to that guilt for a couple of years, And this was something which I felt a bit sorry, like, wow, you're holding on to such guilt for such a long period of time. And straight away I said, I forgive you, it happened in the past, I forgive you. But after that, as my mind started to change towards what can I do to make it better? And I did try to have like compassion, to have empathy for her. And it did come out that way, as far as I know. So I started to reach out to her like maybe once a year or something like that, just to say, hey, how things going? I hope you feel better about it. And, I hope you're cool. But I think recently she's told me that, nah, she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. It's still too painful for her. So that's when we can always offer a olive leaf, to say, hey, if you can, if this is if I can help in any way to reduce your suffering, let me know. And if it's plausible, try and help them out with it. If it's not, if actually talking to them causes them more hurt, then you're not the one for the job. So that was when I also realized that I was at peace with my past because I didn't have any more romantic feelings for her. I didn't feel a huge amount of rage. For that, I just said, okay, this is something she did in the past. I myself am not holding on towards it. Yes, it hurts me again, but I'm not going to let the hurt continue on in my next relationships. So that's it for the talk. So I hope you guys learned something and you guys can start asking me questions now.
Any question from the floor? I think the session is very fast.
Yeah, I did some planning and
Wow.
yeah, I did practice it a few times. You guys have any questions?
Oh,
Any
yes.
questions?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
From Jerome. Is
Jerome,
it
yes.
how I spell your name? Is Jerome here? I think
How-
Jerome's here, right? Oh, Jerome's
Yeah.
mentioned, will you go for another LDR?
Oh, okay, good question. So I'm actually I'm in the SDR right now. So it's a short distance relationship. So I'm actually based in Melbourne, as some of you guys know, and she's actually in Sydney. But because she worked quite often, so I decided to fly over and become her Maria for her. help to do the cleaning, washing, and making sure the house is all taken care.
Wow.
So she doesn't need to worry about that. Because for me, I can work anywhere, but obviously it's also to spend time with her also. So it's kind of it's kind of a short distance relationship, but yeah, we're looking for the long term. So I've been in Sydney about since yeah, I've been here about almost like 4 or 5 months already.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, there is one from Pacer. So Pacer asks, what's your
Yeah.
view on premarital sex?
So this is a very good good question. So I think the Buddha's view on premarital sex is if a person is obviously consent is the most important thing. It's the most important thing. But and Ryan Wee can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Yeah, just in case I quoted wrongly. So I read this somewhere where the Buddha actually mentioned that if a person is under the guardianship of someone, then you shouldn't engage in it because she's still being looked after by someone. But if it's basically she is already doing her own basically earning her own keep, having her own place and all that, then it's really up to the person to choose because that person is able to sustain his or herself, you know, because you're not placing the burden on someone else. And I thought this was actually pretty wise because rather than saying that, oh, 14 years old is the age where it should be this, but at 14 years old, if someone else already has the capacity, very unlikely, but if they have the capacity, then why not? But if they are like 20 years old, they are living on their own, they basically are able to look after themselves. I think that I agree with this logic.
Yeah, Pacer mentioned that's great. I totally agree. I don't think it should be strictly within marriage. So yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's good to share. Thanks for sharing, Pacer.
Any other questions?
You guys can hit me with the
Okay,
tough
yes,
ones.
there is
There's
one
no.
more from Kai Xiong. Is it Chang Kai Xiong? How
Yep.
do you fully be at peace with your
Ooh, okay. How do you fully be at peace with your past? Now, this question can be taken in many ways. Is it specifically for relationship, Kaisho?
Yeah, like getting a closure in that sense. Like, how do you really do it?
Mm. So the very first thing that I did, especially for some of my later relationships, was I sat down by myself and I asked, what am I feeling? Like, what exactly am I feeling? Am I feeling when I see the photo of this person, what emotions does it bring up? What feelings does it bring up? And if you just tell yourself, no, I'm okay, I'm fine, but then your whole body is tense up and then you're very emotional about it, then it shows that you've not really gotten past that point. So people also say like, oh, time is the best healing factor. You know, that is true to a certain extent because if you hold on to a grudge that you have for many years, time doesn't heal all things because that grudge is always there. So that is where to be fully at peace with your past, are you holding on to such a grudge? What is causing you to hold on to such a grudge? And are there things that you can do to slowly get rid of this grudge that you feel? So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but these are the steps that I actually took to actually try and alleviate suffering. Then together with time, with understanding, and looking from the other person's perspective also, what caused the breakup? What can I learn from it? So you've already gone through the suffering, you know. What is the silver lining that you can take? Maybe one of the silver linings you can take is how can I improve myself so that I don't need to go through this again? That is a strong motivating factor. And that has been a motivating factor for all my relationships. What can I improve about myself to be a better partner for the next one? And yeah, I think that sets the mind into a positive. And yeah, you just keep improving on it. And then yeah, after a while, you'll start to flow away. Next question. Just curious, how are you able to determine if someone is the one? Wow, difficult question. This is good. I should have asked you guys to ask questions. So I guess the one is something which you don't really have to try very hard at the start. Okay, you don't really have to try very hard to impress the person. You aren't being someone else. You know, like all the movies will say, oh, you know, you just have to be yourself. You know, in a way, yes, it is quite true. Sorry, let me just scroll back to the question. So it is quite true that you don't really have to try, but it's something where, like, I made it a point when I started dating my girlfriend that I'm gonna tell her who I am, and I'm gonna let her know what I feel. And if she can't handle it, maybe she's not the one, you know. So if you, and fortunately for me, she respected that. Fortunately, that actually got her to share more about herself. And then from there we realized, hey, we, even if it's the most simplest things, like, hey, we both love chicken rice, hey, we both love mango. And then that's something that we can start to build on also. And then we realize we have a lot of similarities. Then we discuss about what our life goals are, what is important to us. And then we start to click on many different levels. And then that's when you start to develop care, to develop trust with the person. Then from there, you know it's the one. But just seeing a person from afar and I say, oh, that person's the one, that person just walked in the room and I just knew back then that person's the one. I don't think that really is the case because yeah, there's so many times you definitely see a pretty lady on the street, or a pretty girl or a guy, and they don't show you who they truly are. There's a phrase that I learned, and that's the grass is always greener on the other side because it's fertilized with bullshit. So that's something which I've always kept with me. So I know that, yeah, it's from there you know that that person is the one, and it makes you feel a certain way, you know. Yeah. Hopefully I didn't butcher the question, but I hopefully answered it properly. Okay, next one.
There is, yeah,
How
from
much do you think your parents' opinion should influence yours when you're young? Let's say about 18 and below, or 18, 19 and below. I think your parents' opinion should influence you quite a bit because they are giving you from a third party perspective view. Now, this is not something which can just be a whole blanket and say, yeah, this is what it is. But I think you should take it with a pinch of salt and observe. But once you hit about 18, 19, you start to have a little bit of life experience. Then that's when you should start to think for yourself and start to think a bit more objectively. Read up. You can read up on relationship books and all that. You can start to get into relationships. And then you start to test by yourself. The Buddha has always encouraged us to test, you know, but test wisely. So if you are doing stuff which basically is a bit more, which can result in, let's say, a pregnancy or something like that, maybe start to use protection, you know. But I won't encourage that until you're a lot older, because you may not be able to handle the results also. So there's a reason why parents also would tell us to be careful, to be cautious, but don't let it affect you too much, because you are yourself and you know who you are at that moment in time. You know who you wish to be your partner. Hopefully that answers your question. Any advice on love at first sight? How do we know if that's the person? So yep, I think I answered that also with the one. Basically you have to get to know the person a bit more first. So I don't really believe at just like, wow, this person swept me off my feet straight away. But you get to know the person, then from there you start to know whether that person is the one. Yep. Is love the most important aspect of the relationship? If you're falling out of love with your partner, but then you're both still doing good together, is it worth continuing as boyfriend, girlfriend, or should we convert to friendship? Well, this is a very Singaporean question. So it's a gray area. So there still really isn't a answer for what is love. So if you're falling out of love with a partner, is there something that you can do with your partner to bring that love back? Because if you look at it from a chemical perspective, a lot of the romantic stuff that we do, it creates oxytocin in our heads. It makes us feel happy, it makes us feel at ease, and it makes us trust. So if you use the example of my fifth relationship, my sixth relationship. So in this case, I started to neglect her. I didn't take her out for as many dates. I didn't start to look after her, and after that, the feeling started to fade away. So she was actually falling out of love with me, you know. But I feel that to be friends after a relationship, be friends after a relationship, I think that's really very difficult, but it is possible. So, but if you guys feel that you're friends already and there's no intimacy between both of you, then yeah, just stay as friends, you know. But if you or her starts to, or you or her, or you or him starts to find someone else, then can you deal with that? If you truly see someone as a friend, so if like, let's say I see Dita as a friend, right? And then Dita gets into a relationship with another person, I won't feel jealousy. I'll be happy for her, you know, especially if it's a good relationship. All the best, yeah, sadhu sadhu sadhu. But the thing is, if you are starting to feel as though this person is like, you getting to a relationship will hurt you deeply, then maybe there's still some unresolved feelings that are going on between you and the other person, and you probably need to chat about that also. Yeah. Need to be honest about ourselves. Yeah. No worries. What do you think of career work first, then relationship? Ooh, this is a good question. When you're young, yeah, I think career and work is very, very important. But as you start to develop that, then after that, you start to realize that, hey, it may not be the most important thing. So like, let's say for me, you know, back to relationship 6, I work 7 days a week. And after that, I realized that I didn't have anyone to share my successes with. I didn't care about other people as much, you know. So like, I feel that, so let me just read it again. What do you think? So it is possible to do that, but I think if you meet the right person, you're not going to say, oh, I love you a lot, but career first, let's hold it there, and then let's relook at it maybe in 3 years time when my career is in a better place. So it comes naturally, and exactly when you're meeting someone which you know, or you have the gut feel that it might be the one, you need to start developing that relationship. Because if that partner meets someone else, and then you're putting him or her on hold, then you might actually lose out for it, you know. So yeah, I think there needs to be a middle path in this also. How to properly heal from your past relationship so you don't bring it to your... So I think this is very similar to the question that I answered from Kai Xiong, which would be how do you fully be at peace with your past? So how to heal from your past previous relationship? So that was why I actually took 1 year. So in between relationship 5 and 6, I actually took a step back, and then I told myself, I'm going to focus on self-development. I am not going to be in a relationship because the scarring from the previous relationship was still very raw. It took me 1 year to actually get over it, you know, before I could open up my heart again to someone else. So it's something which you need to use that period of time, and 1 year is not like the given. It's just a rule of thumb, you know, and it's a rule of thumb for me. If it takes you more time, it might take you more time also. But one thing is, if the person getting to a relationship doesn't hurt you anymore, that's one way you know that, hey, I really don't see that person with a relationship link anymore. I really see him or her as a friend. And at the same time, to heal yourself is to know yourself. Once again, same advice I give Kai Cheong is if you know yourself well enough, what the emotions you're feeling, you can slowly track by yourself, and then you can say, okay, right now I'm still affected by it. I'm still deeply in pain. But okay, let me observe the emotions. So you sit with the emotions. You don't try and trick yourself that the emotions aren't there. But if you really cannot get out of it, like one of the things that I used to bring myself out of the slump was comedy, was work and comedy. So work was I dived myself into work. I started to work as much as I could, and yeah, because I didn't need to think about that, I started to do new projects, started to be a bit more adventurous in terms of my career, and at the same time also, even though I'm feeling sad, I watch some comedy, and then after that, I start laughing, and then it kind of tricks my brain that I'm laughing. But this is only like very short term. So these are like little Panadols to get you out of that loop. But yeah, that was what I used for the short term. For the long term, you really need to sit with those emotions. If you don't sit with them, they will still bug you to this day. Yeah, so cry if you need to. I know for guys it's very hard to cry, but cry if you need to. Get it out of the way, sit with the emotions, then you can slowly begin your healing process. If you suppress it down, it will always be there. It will follow you for the rest of your life. So if you don't want that sort of suffering, slowly do those methods, sit with yourself until that feeling is totally gone or negated. Then you can say, okay, maybe I'm ready for a new relationship along the way. So there's no hard and fast rules for that, but I think that might be the way to actually do a step-by-step to bring yourself out of it. Okay, if we speak about having shared values, don't you think it's important for both parties to have fundamental type of Buddhist beliefs and values, especially if you're more profound stuff like emptiness, blah, 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 might create dissonance in the relationship? All right, so very good question. So if your partner is of a different religion or no religion, like there are a lot of people nowadays with no religion, non-self, impermanence, emptiness, and all that. So I think you really have to ask yourself what exactly there is the Buddhist practice, but you have also to ask yourself, are you going to be a monk or nun, or are you going to be a lay person? So if you are going to be a lay person, there's going to be a middle path for that. And the middle path for that, as what Ajahn Brahm also says, is your partner a good person? That's the bedrock, that's the basis of the person. Whether or not you're lesbian, whether or not you're gay, whether or not you're straight, if your partner is a good person, then all the more you should just go for it. Because I think Ajahn Brahm was asked this before, about gay marriage and all that. He said if a gay couple can be better as a couple than a heterosexual couple, who are we to step in the way of them? So once again, going back to your question, it will be, are you able to be if is your partner and you both practicing shared values, do you both treat people with respect? Are you both treating people with are you both building trust with one another? If you are, then possibly that could be the right partner, But if you want to take it further, then that's perfectly fine also. So if you wish to have someone who's of a Buddhist belief and values also, yeah, by all means you can pursue it. So it really depends on what your own personal beliefs are, what you wish to achieve also. But then you also have to really know whether or not are you moving too much into monkhood or moving too much in the other direction also. So yeah, I think shared values is important. But for me personally, I did try dating some people from faith-based religions, and it didn't really work out because I felt that, yeah, I just couldn't believe in something which I wasn't shown the evidence for. That was something that really grind my gear. So once again, referring back to my talk, if you know that, let's say your partner is of a very strong faith-based religion, then you know that will conflict with, and if they try and convert you or they try and stop your practice, then that may not be the right partner. But as long as you yourself also don't impose your religion onto your partner also, then that's perfectly all right. So yeah, that really depends on what you and your partner want to be and what kind of relationship you both wish to have. Ah, okay, so that almost links up to this one by Li Heng. Hold on. So I think this Li Heng also, this also was answered in the previous question. Starting with my sis boyfriend is Catholic and she is starting to learn. So are they both Catholic, or is one Buddhist, or learning to be learning about Buddhism and the boyfriend's Catholic? Li Heng?
I think Li Heng is offline now.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Sister is a Buddhist, but still trying to learn about Buddhism also.
Mhm. So it really depends, like what draws you to Buddhism. I think that's a question we should ask, you know. You're not Buddhist because you're born to be a Buddhist. Like for me, I was born a Gnostic Buddhist, then I started to research other religions. Then I realized that just praying for my sorrows and my unhappiness to go away just doesn't work for me. And that's when I started to say, okay, what is a methodology that suits the things that I inherently believe in? And that came to Buddhism. So it's the same. Like if Catholicism also helps them find their questions and help them live their life, helps them achieve a state of happiness, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's always good to be curious, because there's also good things about being a Catholic also. But you have to realize what are your kids going to be brought up with also. That's something that you have to discuss with your partner. Catholicism or Buddhist background, you know, or how are you planning or yeah, it really depends on how you, as long as you don't try and convert the other. I think that's the most important. So if you are trying to convert your partner to be of a different religion or to be your religion, I would fundamentally disagree with that, because you shouldn't be doing that, because that means that you're not showing your partner the way. You're just trying to force them to be the way that you want them to be, and that's not Buddhism. Yeah. All right. Are we done with all the questions? Any others? Yeah. Agree with what Pesu says. Yes. It can be different religions and all that, but as long as your fundamentals are the same. But then also, then you got to agree what is considered a good person. What is the definition of a good person? Maybe prayer works for one person, maybe chanting works for another, maybe meditation works for another person. So you just have to respect that they're different individuals. As long as they don't try and convert you, you don't try and convert them. Most interfaith relationships, that's the way I see how they work.
I think like to clarify what I was saying, I think sometimes I don't really like to see people as like, oh, like separate from each other, like, oh, I'm Buddhist, or oh, you're Catholic and all that. Because I also like am in the plant village community, and then actually quite a number of people who go there are also like they have a Catholic belief, but then the Buddhist practice also like helps them spiritually. So they're
Yeah.
also like our spiritual friends. So I just realized that actually it's a very human thing. This whole like whatever we learn and all that, it's like just what at the end of the day is whatever is like applicable to you and like benefits you lah. I mean, we don't have to say like, oh, this is Buddhism, this is what Buddha say and all that. Actually is something that is applicable across all human beings.
Yeah, fully agree on that. And that's why as I said, if your partner is trying to convert you or you're trying to convert a partner, then there's something wrong there, you know, because that means you're forcing yourself or forcing your beliefs onto another person. But if you're learning from Catholicism, you're learning from Buddhism, and then you can see similarities, by all means, the person that created Star Wars, George Lucas, he's a Methodist Buddhist. some people say that Yoda is actually made after the Buddha also. So these sort of things do exist. So it is definitely possible, and I fully agree with that. Yeah.
I think I want to add one thing. It's just that to me in the end all those what religions are just labels.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, they are just labels, and there's like no point in saying one is better than another or what. It's just it's just how people want to find their peace with themselves or something.
That's true. And yeah, that's why most wars, majority of the wars are fought based on religion, on whose god is better, whose being is better. But once you start
Or
to
whose one is
actually,
more real.
whose one is more real, yeah. So that's where we flip the question, like, are you at peace? Are you more calm? Are you more happy?
If you
So
are
in this
more
case,
calm, more
back to
happy,
the
then you won't fight.
yeah. But even in relationships we fight also. So it's about resolving it also.
Yep.
So are you able to resolve things that go on in the relationship? And then from there you'll be able to find out whether is this the right person for you. Yeah. So yeah, religion would be secondary depending on yourself. Yeah. I know I do have a friend who's Christian, and her partner is Christian also, just like her, but he's actually interested in Buddhism. So then after that, she was asking me, how do I stop my boyfriend from becoming interested in Buddhism? And that was something that really hit me, because I was like, that's not exactly love. Because she said, I want my kids to be raised in a Christian household for a Christian background. So then that's actually indoctrination. Yeah, but unfortunately, there are quite a few people that believe in indoctrination nowadays, because you're either right or wrong. There's no gray areas. So focus on the gray areas, focus on our own practice, focus on ourselves. How can we be better people? How can we be a better partner in this case for our current relationship or future relationships?
Or one thing I would like to say it is, if it's like for future kids, then maybe expose them to like all the major ones, and then let them choose.
Yeah, so that's where education comes in also. You can bring them out to educate them about judo religions, judo Christian religions, about Taoism, about Buddhism, and all that, and then let them choose. I feel that that's a great way to go, because I actually went through that path also, and that's how I found Buddhism. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I'll look at it later, Pacer. Any other questions that you guys have? You guys want to ask my partner about what she thinks? She just came back home. Yeah. Oh yeah, over in Australia we don't usually say boyfriend girlfriend, we say partner. Yeah, yep. Sorry, someone was saying something.
Yeah, actually, why not? Because we still have time until like our service ends at. So after that, actually before that we just need 5 to 10 minutes for announcements. So we still have another 10 minutes lah. So
Okay.
if you want to introduce your partner to us.
Just watching stuff. Dear? Dear, do you want to come here and say hi? She's a bit shy, but when she comes, she'll come. Yeah. Come, just come in. No, just come in. Just 5 seconds. Just 5 seconds. Come say hi. Come here. 5 seconds. 5 seconds.
Don't need Thai say, we won't eat you up.
Well, this is Vanessa. Yeah, she just finished work. Then working Saturday. She's working tomorrow also. Yeah, and she was actually listening to the talk.
Oh, okay.
She actually called my phone. Then after that, on the phone, then she was listening to what I was saying.
Wow. Okay, any questions from the audience?
Aldo, any other question?
How are you like thinking about marriage, or you want to like like
Yeah. Please ask. Pacer, right?
yeah, are you thinking about marriage, or you want to like be in this relationship for a longer time first to gauge?
I think definitely we are already thinking about marriage. That's one of the first few things we discuss because as some of you guys know, I'm actually 30 this year. Yay. So it's definitely been something that's on my mind, and we just need my career, my business, everything to settle down first. Then after that, will be something we'll be looking forward to. Yeah. So it's something that we already discussed already, and that's why it's important. So like this type of questions that come in, it doesn't become like a sudden shock to the system. So it's always good to communicate in advance. Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to say something earlier. So how you asked me about the thing about the suitors, right?
Yes.
Okay. So actually I was trying to look for it just now, but I couldn't find it. So I'm not
Find it.
certain which part in the suitors it was mentioned, but I did come across something, where if the person was under the protection of her parents, her sibling, or even her religion, then it's not proper.
Yeah.
But if you translate it into a modern context, what does it mean?
Mm.
I would say it's more of also a matter of harmony. Yeah. Just think about it, lah. If your partner's parents knew you were going to do something with their daughter or with their son, would they approve or they disapprove? What are the consequences? That's also some food for thought, lah. Yeah. Instead of going by the book only, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to also mention also. So I think that's quite a balanced point of view regarding the premarital sex question that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no hard and fast rules, but I feel like nowadays we also must also take into account the rules of the land. So the rules of Singapore, what's the rules? You got to know the rules also. So you don't want to like, oh, Buddha said this, then you end up in jail. So always take things into like context, take things into like modern day considerations also. And the most important thing is consent also. Also, maybe think from the parents' point of view. If you were a parent, what would you think also? Would it be okay? Will you be totally chill about it? I think that's another point of view that we need to take. Thank you, Tanya. Abandoning sexual misconduct. He abstains from sexual misconduct. Who are protected by their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their relatives, all the Dharma. I think in this case means maybe monks or nuns. Those with husbands, those who entail punishments, or those crowned with flowers by another man. This is how one is made pure by 3 ways by bodily action. Thanks for sharing, Tanya. So yeah, sexual misconduct. It's something which a lot of people have debated about, and sadly, I think not too many monastics have been able to cover this also. So I'm hoping to see more teachers actually covering this part, because I think that's one of the main aspects of lay life. Is one of the main differentiators also.
Yep. Oh, thanks for saying that, Dika. Yep, this for normal people, not only Sangha. Okay, let's go down the list. Jesslyn, any questions? Jesslyn Ong. No, none at all. Aldo Jr. No? Okay. Selvi asked question already. Elizabeth. Jia Yi? No more. Okay, good. Jia Yi, question?
Can I ask?
Yeah, go.
Are you a person who like let the flow go, or you like try to get what you want?
Good question. So I usually have a strategy and a plan where I want to be. Then I will take steps towards it. But what happens on the way, you have to go with the flow. Does it make sense?
I
Means
agree.
like if you want to succeed in life, there are many ways to succeed, but you have to take the first few steps. But if the first few steps you stumble, you have to find different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And that is actually very important in career also, because that's the startup methodology. People pay big bucks for that, to be able to be innovative, to be able to think out of the box, to join think tanks. And I say, oh, this is the way it is, this is the way it must be. So that's one of the things that you guys can learn from Buddhism also. It allows you to open your mind a lot bigger. Opens your mind towards a lot of what ifs. Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Thanks for answering.
No worries. Yeah, Kenny, Lucas Lim. Is there a Lucas that I know? No? Ying Rui, Zheng Kang. No questions. Jia Yan, Tiffany. No question. Evelyn, May ask question already. Tony.
If not, then we can end the session for now.
Yep.
Then
sounds
I
good.
will have a short announcement after this. So thank you so much, Brother Hao, for sharing. So let's just
No
say three sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. So now here it comes to our announcement.
Okay.
So let me share screen again.
Okay. I will stop mine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hao.
Yes.